I probably essentially, as a younger human, broke my voice basically.
Yep.
Like I was a rock singer growing up in the early 2000s, and it was just like you just kind of go as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I grew up practicing in my guitarist's bedroom. Everyone's got amps and drums and everything,
Yeah,
and I had
screaming.
essentially nothing.
Yeah.
Or I had this tiny little combo amp that I was like trying to
Plugging
get
a mic
like
into.
plugging
Yep.
a mic into and trying to get some noise out of it.
It's like squealing back at
it,
you.
it literally wasn't until I moved up here that I like bought a monitor for band practice
Yeah.
and things like that. You know, like it was nuts. And so, I just spent my life just screaming and just going louder and louder and louder. And, I prided myself on having this super loud voice that you could hear over everything. But it kind of just got to a point where I just basically broke it and had to kind of rebuild it from the start, which was actually quite amazing because I rebuilt it better, which was cool. But I think like this...
That's why the voice is like such an incredible instrument. Like,
Yeah.
We don't get enough credit as
Oh,
singers.
No,
we
not
don't
at
get
all.
taken that seriously. But the
So
voice
you don't
is
have to
an
We
load
might not
amazing
get
anything.
taken
thing.
seriously, but we generally get all the credit.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
We might not get taken seriously, but the credit is ours. You're singing in the wrong places. But so I mean, I'm married to an incredible vocal coach that
cool.
is doing a lot of. She's basically obsessed with studying, and she's constantly getting better and better. But I'm a very bad student, so
Right.
she's not very good at. I'm not very good at being told what to do.
Yeah.
But so my particular practices, I think bottom line, like key thing is being hydrated.
Yeah.
Like the voice is I mean you've got these vocal folds that if they're not hydrated, they're not going to do what they need. So if you're a singer, you should be basically constantly sipping water. Like the toilet is your friend. Go to the toilet as often as you need to. But I mean, literally I've come from a vocal session today and I've had to wear 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But that's essentially because I'm just constantly trying to hydrate. It's just sipping.
it's great.
just keeping the vocal folds hydrated because if they don't, it's not going to work the way you want it to do. Next step, I mean sleep, which is not always
An option.
probable
No.
or an option.
Exactly.
And so it's really just working those things around yourself. And so I suppose then, especially if you don't have sleep, and even worse if you don't have hydration, it's finding the things, the warm up techniques that work for you.
Yeah,
and,
cool.
and warming up the right parts of your voice. I, as a kid, hated warm ups.
Yep.
I thought they were like the boringest thing in the world. Like just get me into singing.
Yeah.
And now, my ex flatmate and my wife talk a lot about the annoying noises I make, which is funny because my wife's a vocal coach. Like,
Yeah.
she's making
it's all
one.
about.
But
Yeah,
the thing is, I'm
making
really
funny
loud
noises.
and obnoxious.
Yeah.
And I'm warming up really weird parts, like really
You choose
high
the
parts,
weirdest
or
warm-ups.
or like metal screams or things like that. And my poor musical theatre wife is going, just please shut up.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to treat it as something that is important.
Yeah.
I mean, I thrashed it as a teenager and a young adult, and
Yeah.
it's I'm probably and I can probably still tell a little bit. Well, not necessarily tell, but it's almost like I know it's had a life.
Yeah.
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 But now it's just about treating it right, and
Yeah.
just and I suppose and as I say, I'm a bad student, which once again don't be like me. If there's one thing you take away from this,
Be a
only
good student.
but it's like it's constant, never being set. You're never
Yeah.
as good as you can be.
Yeah.
There's no bar. There's no limit. You can keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, I seriously thought years ago that there was that like a high that I could reach a high C.
Yes.
Now I added almost an octave onto that eventually.
Amazing.
Wow.
And there's the thing you can and I literally thought that was the end. I was like, that's the roof. That's the end of it.
Mhm.
You're never as good as you can be.
Yes.
Like you can keep getting better, and that's the same with anything.
It's
As a
same for-
drummer, as a
yeah.
guitarist, as anything.
Exactly.
Keep pushing and keep trying.
Yep.
There's always skills that you can add to your bow.
100%.
And I sit here as a nearing on middle-aged man, going, I've got to keep pushing and
Yeah.
teaching old dogs new tricks.
Yeah. So do you warm up every day? How long do you
I
warm up?
love
Like,
days
what
that I
is it?
don't have to sing.
Yeah.
It would only for the sheer fact because I think vocal rest is also important,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, and it's not always something that you can do or can have. You know,
Yeah.
like you could be having to work every day of the week. You could be having to sing every day of the week. You could be having to do it. But if you know, it's important to, even if it feels good, make sure you're getting it to a point where it needs to be before you sing.
Yes.
Mhm.
And you know, I'll have days where I'm like, oh, your voice feels great today. I won't drink water, and then by the end of the 3-hour gig, I'm literally dying and going,
Yeah.
because I've not got it to the place where I needed to get it.
Yes.
And whilst the gig might have felt great for the first hour and a half, it feels rubbish for the next hour and a half.
Yep.
So it's really about just going good or bad, knowing the things that you like to do or your voice needs, and I suppose it's really important to go home and play. Go home and don't just be set with it. Like, singing is a fun thing. Go home and play with the voice. Find different things. Find things that you like about something and go, how do I do that? And not necessarily emulate someone, but not go, well, my voice doesn't do that, because your voice can probably do something similar.
Yeah.
It might have a different tone, or it might do, but even tone's something you can play with in a million different ways.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just about kind of just continuing to be open as you possibly can.
Yeah.
My wife might watch this and be like, oh, shut up, you.
Yeah, because I think as well, like, people like, how do you go home and you practice your singing? And I always say, like, I'm a vocalist, and I'm like, you just go home and you sing. Like, that is your practice.
You can practice anywhere.
Do your warm-ups, do your breathing exercises, stretch the voice, try different things. Like, that is your practice. It's not like you sit down at the piano and you play your scales. It's very different, you know, but of course you still need to work on it, you know, and develop it. So
And you can play your scales if you want, but you can also just find a song that you thought was too hard and go, how do I play with these things?
Yeah,
and then take it to your teacher or take it to who you respect and go, what is it that I can do in this, and what can I, how can I do that?
yeah.
Because it often is that we're dealing with these really tiny things. Like your vocal folds are the small things. So often it's like a millimeter of change, or not even a millimeter of change, that is going to make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So you're actually generally closer than you think you are, and it's just finding which part of the technique you need, or a technique that you weren't quite getting or didn't quite know yet.
For sure.
And that works for anything, basically.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Like any skill, really. Yeah.